What makes Artificer one of the most interesting classes in the game in terms of builds is magic items. Because we get access to all these items, we open up a lot of potential for interesting options that we wouldn't normally have. Furthermore, the best part about items is they aren't restricted to us. They're a real easy way to give buffs to companions. Now, of course, for builds, we can only really focus on ourselves, but of course we've done builds with like beast companions before. And since they use items, when we have an overabundance of resources that would give us extra damage, we can lay some of those onto something like a companion. So one of the most interesting options came with the release of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, because at 2nd level, Artificers for their replicate magic item ability could be any one of the ones listed, or any common magic item. Now, because they're common magic items, they aren't often very good or helpful, but and it cannot be a spell scroll or potion, but that does not include spell rot tattoos. Now, spell rot tattoos are even better than spell scrolls because they are not limited to the class that we're in. We can choose any spell, and so basically we know every single spell from any spell list, if it's 1st level or a cantrip. And not only that, but we don't have to give it to ourselves once more. We can give it to a companion or something and buff them instead. Of course, while Artificers cannot normally get a familiar, we can just cast it as a spell rot tattoo, and now we have a familiar we can give spell rot tattoos and all these other items to, which is very convenient. Now, there are many other classes in the game that have options of getting familiars or companions or whatnot. So we're going to see what we can do. Now let's just do a quick overview. So in terms of options of what we can do, Artificers get quite a few interesting either items or ways of casting spells. While we do have the spell rot familiar, spell rot tattoo, and that is good, the spell storing item we get later on is even better. So, because that can do any Artificer spell that's under the 2nd level or lower, and we can cast it basically up to 10 times if we have 5 + 5 to our int mod. It's consistent. Now, if we get a hold of a special familiar through like 3 into Warlock for Back of the Chain, we can get familiars that can actually attack, like the Imp, right? And then also we can also get this with the new Strixhaven mascots, which through that feat that you get them through, they can also attack. This is a big feat investment because you have to invest 2 feats into it, and the damage they deal is actually even less than the Imp, which is 1d4 + 3 + 3d6 poison, or half on a success, which is still a lot, like I mentioned with the snakes. There are a few options that are really good for like attacking familiars. We can get the Gauntlets of Ogre Power as an Artificer, which means we can bump up their mod to +4. So, I mean, again, Imps already have +3, so it's not huge. But it's still pretty decent. And then we can use a spell rot tattoo for Hunter's Mark, which is going to get, you know, a d6 to every attack we make as an Imp. So that's decent, right? So, and then putting like into our spell rot tattoo, I mean our spell storing item, which we haven't used yet, we can put something that would give us a passive buff. But the thing is, our concentration is already spent on Hunter's Mark, so there isn't a ton we can do. If we had enough Spell Rot Tattoos, put a bunch of Spell Rot Tattoos on our Imp, and then with our spell storing item, give them something like Hunter's Mark or something, right? Because we can get that through a background. This would mean that every time the Imp attacks, we got to add the Green Flame Blade. But the thing is, Imps don't have character levels. Well, but I would use ours. So that would be, for one attack, we'd be dealing 34 damage on a failure from Poison for Imp, or 30 on a success. If we had made 2 attacks with Imp, so we'd have to either sacrifice a bonus action, one of our attacks, so that would be 2 attacks. So it'd be 55 damage on a failure, 45 on a success, or 74 damage on a failure, and 60 on a success if we had 3 attacks. Which the only way to do this is if we got haste and then sacrifice that attack. The thing is, we have to sacrifice resources to get the familiar to do this, right? Which is not ideal. But there are other options that allow the familiar to act completely independent, and then we can still make our attacks and benefit. So that would be ideal. And essentially, we can't really keep up that Green Flame Blade Spell Rot Tattoos, right? So what we can do is, we can also try other concentrations, right? So basically, with this version, the less attacks we make, the better. Because if we had something like Heat Metal, or like Tasha's Caustic Brew through our spell storing item, we can have concentration on that as the Imp, and then still make the attacks. So we'd just be doing that damage every turn, and we'd only have to sacrifice the bonus action. But again, at this point, the damage, it would be like 26 for 1 or 22 without. You'd bump that up a little higher with Green Flame Blade, but overall, we're not getting a ton. So, well, what are the other things we can do? So, Scorching Ray is another one we get. As a common magic item, we can get an Imbued Focus, which gives a +1 to damage of different damage types with spells. If we get the Fire one, with every Scorching Ray, with our Scorching Ray attacks, we can deal 1 extra damage. So it's not huge, but it's nice. Scorching Ray, so then we have Haste, we have Hex, of course, which would be 3d6 for each, and we make 3 of those. That's around 33 damage, and if we're able to Scorching Ray with the Familiar's action and still make an attack, because we still have Hex on, and we can also put Gauntlets, it's going to be 54 damage or 50 on a success. Now, we have the Horn Blasting. This is one of the best damages we can do if we can get multiple targets. First of all, this does not spend our concentration, so we can still have like a magic item to do that. That has something that's non-action based, right? So ideally, if we put Horn Blasting and Heat Metal, that's 27 damage, or 45 damage against 2 targets, and it is 46 damage against 2 targets, and then also 2 targets with Tasha's Caustic Brew. And then if we can make 1 attack on top of that, that's going to be 63 damage or 59 on a success. So pretty good, because probably these are one of the best ones, because Scorching Ray we can only get 33 damage, but Horn of Blasting, if we can get 2 targets, that's gonna be almost 50 damage. So that is really good. So ideally we can get like at least like 30 But if there's 2 enemies, we can get nearly 50. We'll look back to our old friend, the Thief Rogue. Now, because we were talking about all these new ways to use our bonus action against spells, we can get some interesting abuses. So, we need to go at least 3 Thief Rogue for this, because we get fast hands at 3rd level, which is going to give us ability to have an object interaction as a bonus. We're going to want 1 Hexblade Warlock. We need this, we don't need it, but it helps with damage a lot. And then, the thing is, this build is not going to be ideal, and we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about what happens if you try to make it more viable. So, if we only go 6 Artificer, we get 6 infusions, and then 3 of them we can sort of use actively, right? Which means that between a short rest, I believe, we can switch out the other 3. So we can get 6 total, which is pretty good. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to pretty much use all of those spell rot tattoos for Eldritch Blast, because that is a spell we can get. So at this point, we've spent 10 levels total. 6 Artificer, 1 Hexblade, 3 Thief Rogue, right? Now, the 6 Artificer, we can cast 2nd level spells. We're going to need more. But we also want to increase our normal damage. So, a classic way to do that, of course, is to go 3 into Echo. And then we have 7 levels left. So we're going to go into War Wizard. War Wizard is the only one that's actually going to increase our damage. Now, Bladesinger would actually be better because we're already intelligence-based. But we just get a little half our level bonus, so it's going to be +4. So not bad from force damage once per turn. We could just go 7 Artificer because we don't need that extra 1 for Wizard, because it's going to be the same full caster level. But so it's kind of your choice there. Essentially, what this build is going to do is we're going to go Alchemist for our Artificer. The reason why we're doing this is because we're casting spells mostly. Because of this, as an Alchemist, we get a bonus. Because we have 5th level Shroud up, and we can cast Eldritch Blast as a bonus action. 5th level Artificer is getting an ability that if we cast a spell using our Artificer supplies, our Alchemist supplies as our spellcasting focus, we get a bonus to 1 roll of the spell. It must restore hit points or deal damage, and that damage must be acid, fire, necrotic, or poison, and the damage equals our intelligence modifier. So, essentially, because we can choose a necrotic for a Spirit Shroud as a bonus action using our Thieves' Fast Hands ability, we can use our Spell Rot to 2 for Eldritch Blast. It's going to be 4 blasts, each 1d10 plus 2d8 plus 6 from Hexblade's Curse. And then after that, we're adding 5 from Alchemist. Now, because we went 1 level in Hexblade Warlock, we can cast Eldritch Blast again as our action. The War Wizard, because we are doing, oh my gosh, we're obviously doing Bladesinger, because we can cast, because we already have Eldritch Blast from being a Hexblade Warlock. We can take the Eldritch Adept feat to get Agonizing Blast, to deal 5 extra, not for his Power Tattoo because it's not being cast by us, but with her normal action, and then we can still make an attack, and because it's our attack action, make an attack with our Echo as well. So this is 1d10 plus 5 this time from Agonizing, plus 2d8 plus 6 from Hexblade's Curse, and then we tack onto those 4 attacks, because it's just one spell being cast, the 5 from Alchemist. Then we have our 2 attacks from Bladesinger, which is going to be 1d8 plus 5 plus 6. And then remember, we'll want to use... The thing is, we have to use a melee attack for... because we are... Echo Knight. That's the only way we can get that extra attack, right? The issue is, however, we basically lose sneak attack damage from Thief Rogue, which isn't huge, but it's just kind of disappointing. So that's going to be a d10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 10 from or actually d8 probably, because we're using a crossbow, hand crossbow, but light. It's confusing because the light one's not light and then the hand one is the light one, but anyways, and then we can make it chromatic, so it's gonna be an extra d4, and then we can add 2d8 from Shroud, and then the thing is, like, the thing is, I'd love to be able to make it a plus 2 weapon or whatnot, but we can't really do that because we literally don't have a lot of infusions, right? So ideally, we just drop the Echo Knight, because then we can make because that's why I want to use crossbow, because ideally we can make a range attack. We just get the Thief Rogue, and then we just get more infusions to add that +1, and then maybe even grab one of those infused focuses to add +1 to our force damage but we're mostly going to be spending those on Spell Rot, because we have 4 over 1 battle and 8 over 2 if we get a rest. So again, though, this is going to be like in the 250s, which is incredible. And it's Alchemist, which we haven't done, and to think about, like, it's only like 6 to 10 levels in the class, but and it's just an Eldritch Blast build, but man, we can get some fun stuff. Now, we've talked all this about familiars. Now we have to do something with a companion build. So what can we do for this? Well, what we can do here is we can go 11 into Artificer. We're 10 levels in, so it's going to be 4 infusions, and then we get more options for our infusions because of this. Well, what are we going to do with the rest of the levels? We're going to go into Oathbreaker. Going 9 means we get third level spells, and this way, because we're 11 in Artificer, we're basically a 20 level half caster, which means we still get 5th level slots, which means we can cast 5th level Spirit Shroud. Not only that, but remember, Paladins get Fine Steed, which means that because we cast it on ourselves, we can also get a 5th level Shroud on our Steed. One of the best options for this, because we're not going to get Fine Greater Steed, we're not going to have the best options, but Elk. So essentially, we can put the Gauntlet on the Elf to make their +4 for their strength. So it's going to be 1d6 +4 plus 2d8 from Shroud plus 5 and then times 2. Oh, 5 from our, because remember, we are 9 to Oathbreaker, and that Fine State can be a Fiend. So that's where it comes from, because our Charisma modifier will be maxed, because that will be our most important stat in this build, because we're going to be able to apply it to our normal attacks too. And then plus 2d6 trample is going to be equal to 50, and then we can give them a Spell Rot Tattoo to deal Tasha's Caustic Brew as damage, and if we get that on 2 targets, it's going to be 10 damage for 60 damage from our Elk. Now, because we're not 14 into Artificer, we don't get Hornet Blasting, but we can still do Scorching Ray combo. We can use a spell storing item and then Hex with our Spell Rot Tattoo for 33 more damage. Now, for our normal action, what we can do here is we have, now we're going to have to take the Polar Master feat to deal bonus as a bonus action with the D4, and then of course Great Weapon Master, so that's going to be a D10 or D4 with bonus plus 5, and we have plus 2 weapons, so it's plus 2 more, plus 10 from our Great Weapon Master, plus a D4 from Gifted Chromatic Dragon, plus 5 from our Aura, and then plus 2d8 for Spirit Shroud. And we make 3 attacks, because 2 is a normal and 1 is bonus. It's going to be 114 damage. Now, that means altogether, since that's 114 plus 33 plus 60, we're gonna reach over 200, which is nice. But this isn't the only option we can do. Since, again, Elks share spells, what we can do instead is we can give them the spell storing item to use Scorching Ray as their haste action. If we give haste instead, that's going to be 30 plus Scorching, which is going to be 61 more damage, 91, and then Familiar is only going to be 18 damage for a total of 223. Now, what if we tried a Pact of the Chain Familiar and went some attacks with that, right? So it would be 10 Battlesmith. We wouldn't get Spell Rot Tattoo, so it's a bit limiting. We'd have to go 3 Pact of Chain for the Invocation and Familiar that can attack, and then 7 Oathbreaker to get our Aura. We'd give plus 5 to the Fiend's damage, right? So, our normal attacks would be D10 plus 5 plus 10 from Heavy Weapon, plus 2 from our Infusion, plus 5 from the Aura, plus 6 from Hex, because we can be hacked back to the Chain Hexblade, so it's more, and then D4 from Chromatic, and then times 3, because we're going to go Hex for our, I guess that's the only option we get. If we go into Artificer, we can get it easily enough. So now it's going to be 106 damage, and then for Familiar, we can use Green Flame Blade Spell Rot Tattoos to deal 66 damage. So essentially, what we have here is our bonus action is still unused. So we're using our bonus action to attack once, and then their action is going to be spent with the Green Flame Blade attack, right? So we're making 2 attacks. It's going to be 66 if the target fails their save against poison, or 55 not. And then we have plus 20 damage from ASMR, plus 2d6 from Battlesmith, equals 199 damage, so a little less. And because Green Flame Blade gets second, out of all of these, the companion build is the best one. This is not surprising, because more creatures on the battlefield means more options for damage, but this kind of opens up new possibilities with items, which is a lot of fun to mess around with those combos as an Artificer. not only that, but one of our builds, we finally got to use Alchemist in a way that's optimized in terms of damage. So we've checked all the Artificer boxes on this channel, which is nice. Yes, I hope this was insightful and kind of got your juices flowing for some interesting creative builds. This is Sean from Deck Dungeon, signing off.